Good day. So today I'm going to teach you about factorizing. So there are 5 types of factorizing. So if you know all 5, then you are good at factorizing. So I'm going to start with the first one, right? So I'm going to start from the very beginning. So let's say you are given something like this. Let's say 25x cubed y plus, let's say 15x squared. Let's just say x squared. So if they ask you to factorize this stuff, you look for the highest common factor of both of them, right? So how many terms do we have here? We don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not 5 terms, right? This whole thing is 1. This whole thing is also 1. The reason why is because multiplication makes something 1, while its addition and subtraction separate terms, right? So for instance, if we have something like this, we have how many terms here? We have got 1, 2, 3, right? Addition and subtraction always separates terms, while its multiplication makes and division makes something 1, right? So this whole thing is 1 because they're all multiplying. This whole thing is also 1. Both these things are 1, they're also multiplying, right? So it's important to understand terms, right? So you find the highest common factor. So we start with numbers, right? Let's find the highest common factors in terms of numbers. So you start with numbers first, then you go to the letters. So what's the highest common factor for 25 and 15? Well, the highest common factor is a number that both of them can divide by, right? So the highest common factor for both of them is 5, because 25 is divisible by 5 and 15 is also divisible by 5. So what about with letters? So we're done with numbers. Let's go to the letters. So when we pick the highest common factor with letters, we take the letter that appears in all terms. If there are 3 terms, it has to appear in all 3 terms. If there are 2, it has to appear in both of them. So we find the number that the letter that appears in both terms. When we find it, we pick the one with the lowest exponent. So in this case, for instance, x appears in this term and also in this term. But now we pick the one with the lowest exponent, which is, because here we have x cubed, here we have x squared. So the lowest one is x squared. So we write it down. Now what about y? Well, we can't pick y because y appears in this term, it doesn't appear in that term, so it's not a common factor. Common means it's available everywhere, right? That's what common means, right? It means they all have it. So we're gonna say 25. After picking the highest common factor, you actually divide all terms. It's like you'll divide this term by the factor. When you're done, you also divide this term by the factor. So if there are 3 of them, then it means you'll divide this by the factor, then this by the factor, then the third one by the factor. If there were 3 terms, here there's only 2, right? So we're gonna say this whole term divided by the factor. So we're gonna say 25x cubed y divided by 5x squared, right? So what's going to happen here? 25 divided by 5 is 5. X cubed divided by x squared. When the bases are the same, we subtract the exponents. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So it means the answer is x to the power of 1. But we don't really need to write x to the power of 1. It's just like writing 1x. So we write it as x. Then y divided by 1 is just y, right? We can't say divided by 0, because if it was 0, then the whole thing would have been 0, right? So it's just an invisible 1, right? So y divided by 1, or basically if there's nothing to divide y by, just write y. So the answer there is 5xy. And then we're done with that term. So now let's divide this term by that. So we're going to have 15x squared divided by 5x squared. So the x squares will cancel, as you can see. 15 divided by 5 is 3, positive 3, right? Because it was positive divided by positive. This was positive, right? This was also positive. So we have positive 3. The signs are very important, especially when it comes to groupings. When you factorize by grouping, that's the 4th type of factorizing. We will get there. So this is the first type that I'm dealing with in this particular videos. Then in the upcoming ones, I deal with the other ones. So we're done with this part. So we can't go further. As you can see, we can't factorize any further inside a bracket. There's nothing we can do. We can't go further. So let's go to another one. Let's say we have got 25x cubed y, let's just say y to the power of 5 z, or let's just say z, right? Okay, z plus, let's just say what, let's say 50x cubed z to the power 5. Alright, so let's factorize this. So we start with the numbers. So what's the highest common factor for 25 and 50? Well, the highest number that both of them can divide by is actually 25. So we'll say 25. Then let's go to the letters. Does x appear everywhere? Well, it appears here, it appears here, so we pick it. But now we take the one with the lowest exponent, which is x squared, because there's x squared and x cubed. So it becomes x squared. Now, what about y value? Y appears here and doesn't appear in that term, right? So we can't pick it. What about z? It appears here and also appears there. So we write it, we take the one with the lowest exponent. Here we've got z to the power of 1, z to the power of 5. So we write z to the power of 1. So that's what we pick there. Then we open the bracket. So now we're going to divide this whole term by that. So we're going to have 25 x squared y with and z divided by 25x squared z. So basically I'm dividing this term by this term to get the answer that I will have to put there, right? So 25 and 25 just cancels, right? X squared and x squared, that just cancels. Z and z just cancels, so we left with y to the power of 5, right? The same thing divided by the same thing is 1, so they just cancel, right? They cancel. Then now we're gonna have 50 x cubed z to the power of 5 divided by 25. So 50 divided by 25 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared, when you subtract the exponent, is x, right? So the answer is x. So we have x, and then z to the power of 5 divided by z to the power of 1. 5 minus 1 is 4, so we're going to have z to the power of 4. So z to the power of 4, right? So it means our answer is 2x z to the power of 4. So then we have it, factorized it. Here is another one. Let's say we have got 9a cubed b squared c minus 27 a to the power of 5 c to the power of 7 minus 15, let's say a to the power of 7 b to the power of 6, and let's just say, yeah, let's just put it like that, or matter of fact, let's just say c to the power of 10. So let's find the highest common factor for numbers. So we have 9, we have 27, we've got 15. What's the highest number that both of them can divide by? Well, the highest number both of them can divide by is 3, right? You see, both these numbers can divide by 9, but 15 cannot divide by 9. So the highest that all of them can divide by is 3. So we put on 3. Does it appear everywhere? It appears here, here, and there. So it appears. So we pick the one with the lowest exponent. So there's a cubed, a5, a to the power of 7. So the lowest is a cubed. Then here we've got b squared. Does b appear everywhere? It appears here. It doesn't appear there. It appears there. So because it doesn't appear like everywhere, we can't pick it. What about c? It appears there, appears there, appears there as well. So we can pick it. What's the one with the lowest exponent? Of course, it's definitely c, right? So let's divide now. So we're going to have this whole thing divided by that. So we're going to have 9a cubed b squared c divided by 3a cubed c. So the c is of course cancels. 9 divided by 3 is 3. A cubed and a cubed cancels, so I left with 3b squared. You see, there's nothing to divide b squared by, so we have 3b squared. Alright, let's divide that one. So we're going to have minus 27a to the power of 5 c to the power of 7 divided by 3a cubed c. Well, 27 divided by 3 is 9, so negative 9, right? Because negative 27 divided by 3 is negative 9. Then a to the power of 5 divided by a to the power of 3 is a to the power of 2, because we've subtracted exponents, so this will give you a to the power of 2, right? And then c to the power of 7 divided by c, well, we subtract the exponents, we're gonna have c to the power of 6. So our answer there is negative 9a squared c to the power of 6. If I'm a bit clumsy when dividing, you don't really have to do exactly what I do there. You just use your own preferable method to divide. So we're gonna now divide this by that. So we're gonna have 15 a to the power of 7, b to the power of 6, c to the power of 10 divided by 3 to the power of 3 times a to the power of 3, and that. So c to the power of 10 divided by c, well, it just leaves c to the power of 9. And then now there's nothing to divide b, so b remains. Then a to the power of 7 divided by a cubed, well, it's a to the power of 4, because 7 minus 3 is 4. Then 15 divided by 3 is 5. So there we have 5. We have 5a, 4b, 6, c to the power of 9. And there we have it. There. If you check, we cannot factorize further in the brackets because there's no numbers that are common factors here. And check, b appears here, it doesn't appear there, so it's not a common factor, of course. And yeah, there we have it. Now the last example, let's say we have got 10a cubed b squared, or let's say b to the power of 5c minus, let's say, 17 a to the power of 5 c to the power of, or let's just say b to the power of 8 minus 20 a to the power of 2 b to the power of 3 c to the power of 7. Alright, so let's start with numbers. What's the highest common factor for numbers? Well, we have 10, we have 17, we have 20. If you check, you will realize that there is no common factors for numbers, so we don't write down a number. It's not a must to write a number. There's no rule that says we should write a number, right? Then let's look for the common factor with letters now. Does it appear everywhere? Well, it appears everywhere. What's the one that is lowest exponent? Here I've got a cubed, a fifth, a squared. Then here the lowest exponent is a to the power of 2. So what about b? It appears there, also appears there. So what's the lowest? Here we've got b5, b8, b cubed, so b to the power of 3. What about c? It appears here. Well, it doesn't appear there, and it appears here. So of course it's not a common factor. It appears in both, but not in one. It's supposed to appear in all, right? So now we're gonna divide. So when I say 10a cubed b5c divided by a squared b cubed c, right? Okay, so the c's will cancel. There's nothing to divide 10 by, so of course 10 remains. A cubed divided by a squared, well, it leaves a, right? A5 divided by a3, well, b2 I mean, right? b5 divided by b3 is b2. So now we're gonna have 10a b squared, right? That was the answer that we got by dividing. And then now we're gonna say 17a5b8 divided by a squared b cubed c. Alright, now did I just write c? I can't believe I wrote c. Alright, I was not meant to write c. Remember, it was not a common factor, right? Okay, let me verify the first one. Okay, so when we divide this by that, notice there will be nothing to divide c by, so c remains, right? And then now nothing to divide 10 by, so 10 remains. So a cubed divided by a squared is a, right? b5 divided by b3 is b2. There's nothing to divide c by, so it just remains. Then now let's go to the second one. So I divided, when I divided, I wrote it on the side just for you to understand, right? You can actually divide it straight without writing if you can see the picture. So there's nothing to divide 17 by, so it remains 17. a5 divided by a2 is a cubed, and then b8 divided by b3 is b5, right? And we're running out of space there. It's nothing to divide 20 by, so it remains there. Then a squared and a squared cancels, b cubed and b cubed cancels, and we've got c to the power of 7 left because there's nothing to divide by. It's like dividing by 1. So there we have it. That's the factorized form of it. So there. In my next video I deal with part 2.